Man, I'm tired of this shit.
Dude, I was listening to that. Leave it alone.
This is absolute trash.
I don't care. Driver picks the station. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Passenger gets first dibs on everything. I have my finger on the button.
You know what? You want to fight about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck
fine.
you.
Hey,
Fuck you.
leave it alone.
No.
It's mine.
Turn your trash off. Now look what you did. Guess who's back? We're finally back. And Frasier's back, and he sounds worse than ever.
I do. That's right. I do. I sound worse than ever. Sick
He
as a
doesn't sound
dog.
anything like Andrew.
No.
If that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're going to figure that out eventually. So, hello, hi, and welcome to the Dissonant Harmonics podcast. I am Josh, and this is not Andrew's better-looking twin.
And taller twin and better sounding twin.
I keep
There's
referring to you guys. I keep referring to you guys as was it that movie Brothers or Twins or whatever, where it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Yeah. It's actually fairly accurate in terms of how short and wide Andrew is. That's not an insult, and how tall and buff I am.
I don't know how else to interpret that statement, but
it's not meant to be an insult, but it's accurate for the descriptions. Sorry, the facts are the facts, man.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I'm not even wide anymore. This is a size large shirt.
Get out, very nice. Losing the weight.
I won't get out of my shirt. I'm not going to show you that. Not for free.
You and I are both on the weight loss train.
It's because we've both been sick.
Well, no, I'm actually trying to cut weight. I got up to 230 pounds and 100 pounds of skeletal muscle mass for bouncing, and now I'm like, okay, I need to trim it down for a few months and then go back to bulking. The never-ending cycle.
I just got super, super sick for 2 weeks, and have never regained my appetite. I can only eat when I'm stoned.
Yeah, for everybody at home, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly based on my voice and everything that I have been sick.
That Frasier has taken up smoking.
Yes, and I will not be talking as much on this podcast unless I absolutely have to, because I have 2 shows to play, one tonight and one tomorrow, and I'm still going to try to get through with it. I've done some singing, just randomly throughout the house, and my voice sounds okay when I'm singing, but I got to take it easy. I'm drinking tea like it's water at this point.
Tea is water.
Yes. Technically, so is coffee, just filtered over coffee grounds.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot leaf water and hot bean juice.
Yes.
I should have made coffee before I started this.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, so we have news. We missed out last week. We had some stuff going on, and that gave us some time to kind of collect some more news and actually collect new albums to review, because we had an album review set up for at least one album. I don't think we had a second one ready. And now the week hiatus has kind of given us a little bit more time to get a second album ready to review.
Yes.
So,
and the nice thing is after this week, a bunch of people are dropping a bunch more albums, so there won't be any shortage of albums to review now that we're out of the slow season, including Memphis Mayfire's got a new album coming up, even though they've dropped literally 8 out of the 10 fucking songs for it.
I thought Memphis Mayfire already put out their album.
No. Well, they might as well have at this point. They've put out 8 out of the 10 fucking songs that are available for it. Architects' album comes out next week. We're going to be horny on that one.
Shit, who else? There was somebody else that releases an album in 2 weeks. But I feel like it might be a heavier band that you're not into.
I know a bunch of people have announced upcoming drops, so it's not like there's going to be a shortage. Obviously, A Day to Remember, Gemini Syndrome dropped a new single.
A Day to Remember did it weird. The physical album's out, but streaming doesn't become available till next month.
It's just licensing deals. And also, it's actually a smart way to do it, right? Put out the physical album so people that have no impulse control buy the physical album first, which makes the band more money anyway, and then drop the digital album that everybody's going to listen to anyway afterwards, and because everybody's going to listen to the digital album once it drops for sure. It's just that the hardcore fans will get the albums first that buy the physical copy and all that. It's actually a smart business move.
Especially because this is volume 1 too, so I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to go.
Is it volume 1 or volume 2?
Yeah, they called it Big Ol' Album Volume 1.
Yeah. No, in your last sentence you said this is volume 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, your dad jokes don't impress me. Anyways, hey, Lane Staley's writing a new book even though he's dead.
No, he's not writing a new book. They're compiling the book for him.
Technically, he wrote it.
Yeah.
So Lane Staley, let's see, Simon & Schuster is a publishing company, and they have announced that there's going to be a book published from Lane Staley that is all lost journal entries and, let's see, poetry, artwork, fan tributes, lyrics, photos, and more. But here it is. The late Alice in Chains singer is listed as the sole author of the book.
Ooh.
So Lane Staley is coming out with a book after he's been dead for 30 years. I don't know who gets that money, but I'm sure somebody
Probably
does.
his estate.
So this book is going to be titled This Angry Pen, The Lost Journals of Lane Staley, and will contain all the things that we just discussed. And that is going to come out November 11th. So I don't know if you can pre-order it. I don't care. I can't read. Wish I could. It's a big problem.
You live in Tennessee. You're not expected to read.
I mean, I'm reading 6 books currently. 2 of them are literally just rereading them for an entire series. So
I'm finally almost done with frickin' It.
I mean, it is like 1,500 pages.
So I'm listening to it on Spotify, and you're only allowed 15 hours of reading per month. It is so long that it is over 45 hours long. So therefore, I had to listen to it over the course of 3 months and a couple of days, because I'm literally at the last half hour and I'm out of time.
You do know there's like 4 movies for that, right?
Yeah, but now that I've read the book, the movies do not do that book justice.
You can't do that book justice, especially because the subject matter and some certain scenes that I won't discuss on here, you cannot put in a movie.
No. And also, like, anyway, we're getting way off the topic. Anyway, the Amity Affliction have officially announced that, and speaking of horror, the Amity Affliction have officially announced, I think due to Aaron Stringer pushing the envelope a little bit, have announced that Aaron is officially out of the band.
We already figured this because Aaron has already officially said as of a few weeks ago that he is not in the band.
Yeah, he said that he was fired, and they did come out and put out a lengthy post basically saying that due to they weren't going to comment on it publicly, but they've kind of had their hands forced, so they're going to say that Aaron's no longer with the band. It sounds like, and if I have to do a lot of speculation, I'm going to use Kansas, the band, as the template for this. Kansas had 2 or 3 primary songwriters and then 6 other freaking members, or I think 6 or 7 members total, including people that just sang and stuff. And all the people that wrote the music, like the guitarist and the lead singer, didn't want to keep touring because they were getting tired of the road. They didn't like the party life. They wanted to stay sober, but they were also making all the money on their own because they were the primary songwriters, whereas you have 5 or 6 other members that want to keep touring because they're not making any money off royalties. Aaron Stringer and Joel Birch are the sole songwriters of that group for the most part. Aaron has stated in interviews, not like planting his flag and being egotistical, but like in reference to Death's Hand, he said, yeah, no, I finished the music on that, and Joel just had the lyrics ready to go, and it was about Joel's seizure and all that fun stuff. Same with the song Pittsburgh. He said that in interviews as well. It's like, yeah, I finished the songwriting for that, and then Joel had the lyrics ready to go because he was in a dark place in his life and was kind of on top of it. So it sounds like Aaron and Amity Affliction said this publicly, that Aaron didn't want to tour anymore. My assumption is, hi Studio Puppy, is that he didn't want to tour much anymore. The alcohol was getting to him. The personal stuff in his life was getting to him. And he's like, hey, I made my money. I can retire now and not tour and just live off of royalties. And obviously Joel and the rest of the band want to keep touring. And then you have friction plus alcohol plus misery plus depression equals breakup. That's what I would assume has happened here. And that's, trying to speculate a lot.
I don't know. It's gonna be hard to see what they do without him because he's a founding member of that band.
Well, and here's the problem: if he's writing all the music, or him and Joel are, what's the music going to sound like going forward? I have a feeling this is also a little bit of a Bring Me the Horizon scenario where Joel drives the ship and Aaron makes it happen.
It'll probably be the same thing like Black Dahlia Murder went through, where Trevor and Brian both wrote majority of the music together.
Yeah.
But without Trevor, now Brian's the sole songwriter.
Right.
And it's gonna probably sound similar, but obviously it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I can't really think of who drives the ship in more of a heavier sound between the two of them.
I can tell you this: Joel has publicly said many times he does not enjoy singing live, and he actually won't do it. There's a live video of them playing Doomsday live, and he does not sing live. Like, he legitimately used backing tracks for the singing because he doesn't enjoy singing live.
Yeah, that album was kind of a weird one. Like, I really liked that album, Misery, but it was a very, very big style change.
I think they
especially
did that.
With Joel singing.
I legitimately think they did that just because of Bring Me the Horizon blowing up the way they did.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that was them, and I don't mean that in a disingenuous way. I think they were like, hey, Bring Me's getting big on this. Let's see what we can do in our own way, which they did a more emo style of what Bring Me the Horizon was doing, and it worked, but it also was, it was like, hey, let's try this. I want to see how it goes, and it was their version of 10,000 Suns. It was like, hey, let's go bonkers and see what we can come up with.
10,000 Suns is still the best album Linkin Park ever put out.
If you say that again,
it's 1,000 Suns, sir.
You're so wrong on so many levels.
No, it is 1,000 Suns. I'm not wrong.
No, I'm saying if you ever say that 1,000 Suns is better than Hybrid Theory or Meteora, we're gonna fight.
It is better than Meteor and Hybrid Theory because those are two halves of the same album.
Okay, the podcast is over. You're dead to me. We're no longer talking.
I'm going to go solo, and you're going to just listen to what I have to say now. Black Dahlia Murder guitar player Brandon Ellis leaves the band. And on top of that, they have now canceled their Mexico and South America tour due to Brian Xbox Live.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
See how well you do. See how well you do on your own in the first 30 seconds.
Better than you.
So
Brandon Ellis has stated that there's no bad blood between him and Black Dahlia Murder. He just is not. I think they brought Brandon back on just due to the fact that they needed another guitar player to fill Brian's position as guitar player. But now he's announced that he's left, but as stated, there's no bad blood between him and the band, and everybody wishes each other well. But they also came on a piggyback of an announcement that due to Brian's physical health, not mental health or anything, but his physical health, which never goes into detail about, that they're going to be postponing their tour, offering refunds, the whole 9 yards, but there's no real information as to what's going on with him, which is totally fair. It's completely his to deal with. We don't have to know about it. But also at the same time, like, Black Dahlia has had a rough past couple years, so I can definitely see taking some time to say, hey, I'm not doing so well. I'm going to have to skip this tour and get better before I can come back. Because, Brian's always been the guitar player and backing vocalist. Now he's front and center, fronting his best friend's, position in the band. So I'm sure that does take a physical and mental toll on him more than we probably will ever know.
Right.
So I'm wishing Brian the best. I think Black Dahlia still is going to be one of my favorite bands no matter what. And it'll be good to see him come back with, a better outlook on his health.
I did forget to mention this one. Speaking of health, Dave King has been hospitalized, lead singer and mastermind behind Flogging Molly. Obviously, we aren't told why or whatever. He isn't exactly a spring chicken anymore. But obviously, we hope that he recovers quickly because Flogging Molly is amazing, and no one is going.
He's
to
not. He doesn't seem like he's that old.
No, but he is I think he's in his 60s.
Damn, I thought he was only like in his late 40s, early 50s.
I looked up Dave Kong, and that is not what I was looking for. Yeah, he's 63.
Oh, man, King. God damn.
Dave Kong's king. So I'm going to hit a couple really quick, just really fast, rapid fire. Josh, throw in whoever you want to throw in because we've had a bunch of people in the past week or two announce new albums and tours. So I'm just going to kind of hit this, and I think we'll end with this segment or this spot with Warped Tour, talking about that before we go on to further news. So Attack Attack has said they're finally going to come to the US of A's. Well,
that's not Attack Attack. It's just a cover band.
You know what's worse about it?
Huh.
It's half of Nine Shrines.
Which makes a lot of sense.
That's why Nine Shrines hasn't come back, because the lead singer, Chris Parkney, or I should put it this way, Wetzel, the drummer of Attack Attack, who's the only person left that's originally from Attack Attack, brought Chris Parkney from Nine Shrines into Attack Attack to try to relive his glory days instead of just keeping Nine Shrines going when Nine Shrines is 10 times better anyway. Ask me how
Attack
I
Attack better when they. I liked Attack Attack better when they had the singer from I Am Abomination. They only did 2 or 3 songs, but I feel like Phil was a better fit than this guy is. But
ask me how I feel about the fact that Nine Shrines isn't still going. Okay,
how do you feel about Nine Shrines not going?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing albums and tours just because they're announced. Disturbed has dropped a new single, announced a new album. Day to Remember has surprisingly
and their own record label too. Don't forget Disturbed's own record label now.
This time, yeah. A Day to Remember is dropping a new album. Actually, technically, it's already dropped because it's out in physical form.
We talked about that.
Sleep Token has revamped their website and is kind of showing signs that there will be a new album coming out this year, which I called. Haha, Josh, I was right. Machine Head has announced a new album and also has dropped a new single called Unbound. And then
with an ex-guitar player from Havoc too, which is going to be a real interesting fit.
Yep. 30 Seconds to Mars hasn't officially announced it, but they are teasing that they are going to be dropping a rock album again.
That's not teasing, that's threatening.
Do we think it's going to be like This Is War, quote unquote, rock album, or actually like The Kill or A Beautiful Lie rock album?
It's going to be as much of a rock album as Royal Blood has put out in their entire career.
Right. Nothing More, I agree. Nothing More is back in the studio, also working on a new album. Smile Empty Soul has released a new EP called Swan Song. That is out if you're an old Smile Empty Soul fan. I was back in the day.
Man, I totally remember them.
Also, we have talked about this before. Same guy, Sean Danielson, is trying to get World Fire Brigade back up and running, which I'm super happy about. We've talked about them before. And then the last one I have, I guess I have 2. The first one I sent you is Bad Omens and Corey Taylor are teaming up for a cover of Dust in the Wind, speaking of Kansas.
Dust in the Wind.
For the Queen of the Ring movie soundtrack. And then Creed and Nickelback, the 2 most loved bands on the planet, have announced that they are teaming up for Creed's Summer of '99 and Beyond Festival. That will also feature Three Doors Down.
How long is the Summer of '99 tour going to go?
As long as it keeps making them so much money that it's stupid. Did I talk to you about the Creed numbers since when they started the Summer of '99 tour?
They made more money on the Summer of '99 tour than they have their entire fucking career.
Correct. $65 million. More money they had ever made in their previous career. Keep in mind their previous career was over 20 years ago, so I would like to see what the accounting is as inflation. But you tack on Nickelback to that same tour as a co-headliner, oh my gosh, buddy, you ain't going to be needing money for the rest of your life.
I also don't need Creed and Nickelback touring together.
I do. But did you see the supporting acts for it, though?
No, I saw Creed and Nickelback, and I kind of just glazed over it.
So they're surprisingly good and semi-heavy. They have Three Doors Down, Seven Dust, and then I think Tantric and a couple other heavier bands. Not obviously Tantric's not heavy, but they've had a couple other heavier bands like Seven Dust on the road with them, which I think is fucking cool.
Seven Dust makes sense.
Well, here's the funny thing. Seven Dust or Creed are like the godfathers of almost every band that came out in the early or mid 2000s. Oh my word, I cannot speaky.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can thank Mark Tremonti for that.
And Seven Dust.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Dark
the Lowrys.
Dark New Day with the Lowrys. You have John Connolly making some of his own bands. Morgan Rose produced a bunch of his own bands, including 3 Years Hollow and Candlelight Red.
I forgot about Candlelight Red.
Oh, dude. So, yeah, they dropped a song a little while ago, but they've kind of been underground again since. But, like, also Mammoth. So, here's the full lineup. Nickelback with Daughtry, Tonic, Our Lady Peace, and Lit. That's the first night.
Lit.
So this is going to be a festival, technically, because it's going to be Friday and Saturday night for the whole tour. The second night, which I would be more interested in seeing, which is actually heavier. So it's weird. So like Nickelback's the heavier headliner, and then they have quieter opening acts. So Nickelback has Live, Daughtry, Tonic, Our Lady Peace, and Lit. But Creed, which I would argue is the softer of the two bands, has Three Doors Down, Seven Dust, Mammoth by Wolfgang Van Halen, Hinder, Vertical Horizon, and Fuel, which I would argue that lineup is heavier. That opening lineup is heavier than Nickelback's opening lineup.
I feel like Hinder would be a heavier option if you had their original singer back.
Actually, they've got heavier since they got their new guy.
I don't believe that.
Like, it went from an AC/DC style rock to like a more modern, crunchier rock.
You're still not going to top All American Nightmare from Hinder. I think that's just the peak of Hinder's career.
I thought that Welcome to the Freak Show was pretty good though.
I did too, but I feel like it just kind of piggybacked off the same ideas that All American Nightmare had.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that. So that's that. I do have one last one, and then I'll be done, and that is Danny Filth announcing and kind of explaining himself as to why he will not have a Spotify account.
Danny Filth is a weird old man.
No, but he makes sense on this one. He's like, look, it doesn't make sense for me to have a Spotify. Everybody's complaining about how they have terrible artist payouts, so I'm not going to have a Spotify out of kind of rebellion, I guess.
I can agree with him on that one, but at the same time, it's one person out of an entire ocean of people that are paying for Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't pay for Spotify. I use Tidal.
Right.
Because it has better artist payouts, and it has less. It doesn't do podcasts. It has it has limited podcasts. There's only about like 10 of them on there,
right.
And they're all ones I don't listen to, but it links all the music videos and albums together. So it has a little bit different to offer. It's a little bit more expensive, but I know that money is being paid out better for the bands.
Right.
Speaking of tours, Sex Pistols are going on tour.
Mm-hmm.
So Sex Pistols are going on tour.
No, it's not. It isn't. Hold on. I'll say what I said earlier. No, they're not.
It's basically a Sex Pistols cover band. Because it's Sex Pistols without John Lydon. Or as better known as Johnny Rotten, the singer of Sex Pistols.
And obviously no Sid Vicious.
What, they're not fucking digging him up and just dragging him on stage?
Hey, why not? That'd be punk.
That'd be real punk. So Frank Carter from Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, I think is his band's name.
Mm-hmm.
He's fronted Sex Pistols a few times on random shows, but now apparently he's officially fronting the Sex Pistols, who have a run of dates lined up for 2025, including major festivals and a few gigs opening for Guns N' Roses. That's going to be a fucking ego clash. Well, I can see why they don't want Johnny Rotten on that one, because it's going to be an ego clash with Axl Rose.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And Axl Rose will probably just fucking eat him. But Johnny Rotten ain't fucking skinny anymore either. And I believe we talked about this on the last episode when you weren't here. But we talked about Black Sabbath is doing their final final show with the original lineup, all 4 of the original guys.
Yep.
But they've announced that not only can Ozzy really not even walk, but now that they're revealing that he is not going to be playing and singing on every single song.
Well, let's say
at
this
show.
Let's be fair. Ozzy has said that he's not doing it.
Yeah. Well, Sharon's going to say the same thing.
Right. Ozzy, we talked about this before we started. I assume that Ozzy will obviously come out for Iron Man, Paranoid, War Pigs, maybe one other track, and then that'll pretty much be it.
Well, yeah, it's going to be the stuff from the first 2 albums for sure, just because if you have all 4 original guys on there, which I'm surprised that they got Ward on there, because I know that they've basically very unpolitely have said he was too fat to play drums.
Ouch.
So I'm kind of surprised they somehow got him back, but I know they've been talking for years about how they really want one more show and to bring him out. So they said that he said he wasn't in good enough health to perform an entire tour when 13 came out.
Right.
And they had their reservations on that he would be able to play in access to how much they're going to be performing for those tours. So it makes sense. I mean, the tickets sold out in like 15 minutes, so nobody's able to fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the final show in Birmingham. It's, back to the beginning. We're coming back full circle. I'm going to call this now, and if it happens, I'm not taking any of your shit. I'm going to call it that Ozzy's going to die in the next 2 years.
Oh, I agree. Unfortunately, I totally agree. I think that's why they're doing this last little bit. I think he's been diagnosed that he's not going to make it very long. And this is...
He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019, and since 2019, now he's almost completely lost the ability to walk.
Well, and for those of you that haven't been paying attention close enough or reading between the lines, when Post Malone's Take What You Want came out, he did a live show and a music video specifically with Ozzy during the show. Ozzy was in a chair that slowly pushed itself to the front of the stage and then out a little bit. And at one point, there is a quote-unquote guitar player in the music video. You can see the whole thing. It's not even remotely trying to be hidden, I don't think. Post Malone helps him out of the chair and, does that. Looks like he's hugging him, right? Looks like he's got his arm around him, but you can tell he's actually supporting his weight. And this guitar player that's walking around is most certainly on stage to just watch Ozzy. And that's in a music video that's 3-4 years old now. I think that Ozzy is coming close to the end of his life, as unfortunate as that is. And I think this is finally them putting, ironically enough, no pun intended, the nail in the coffin of Black Sabbath so that they can all just put this to rest. I don't even think this is for money. I don't. I think this is for saying we did it one last time and we got everybody together.
Yeah, and that's the big thing with that too, is that they've talked about, the Black Sabbath camp has talked about that they want Ward to do one more show with them, and that they don't consider themselves officially done until they have the core group out performing these songs for the final time. So when they announced that there was going to be the No More Tears 2 tour and Black Sabbath's quote unquote final performances when they didn't have Ward on drums, they were subtly hinting that it's the last time unless they can get Ward back on drums.
Yeah, and I think that is as much of a drama saga Black Sabbath has been. I think everyone will respect them for this and for that opinion of, we know this isn't the final show until all 4 of us are on stage for the last time, and that is the only way we're going to retire.
Yeah, and it's a very good way of just closing that chapter on all of their lives. I mean, Black Sabbath has been around for 50 years?
Yeah, exactly.
So nobody in Black Sabbath needs money. This is just, it's a last hurrah for the big dedicated fans. 'Cause no normal person's going to be able to buy tickets for that show.
Mm-mm.
So, and plus you can't. They're all sold out apparently. So I don't know if that's bots or people that just bought them immediately, but it's going to be a stacked lineup. We talked about it last episode about who's all going. It's an all-day festival celebrating Black Sabbath.
Now, not to move things along too quickly, I do have to ask, unscripted, and we're not going to cut this out. Is that your last news story? Because I just had a giant bombshell drop in my lap while I was searching.
I mean, I guess it can be.
Doesn't have to be, but plow
well, no,
through.
I was out. I was out of stuff.
So
Besides talking about Scour release a new album, but that's about it.
Well, yeah. So I have one more. It's a bombshell that just dropped in our laps as I'm scouring.
Breaking news.
Legitimately breaking news. Like, not even kidding. And it is music related. One of Diddy's, Sean Combs's defense attorneys,
Puff Daddy,
has just dropped off his case.
Okay, that's not new, actually. That happened a day or two ago. That lawyer, it was, what case was it? I believe it was when the U.S. tried to do some sort of lawsuit against Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein, one of the two. I can't fucking remember. I don't retain these kind of things very well. But he represented not America in that lawsuit. So this guy was literally defending one of the terrorists. I forget which one.
So
he has dropped off saying that I can in good conscience continue this, and they're not even like fully in the trial yet.
No, so they have to still go through jury. He did say that he's dropping off before jury selection, before all that stuff, so that it won't be delayed. He actually has said that while I'm aware that local law requires that an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted only upon showing by affidavit or otherwise of satisfactory reasons for withdrawal. I'll explain all this in a second. There are sufficient reasons related to the protections afforded by attorney-client privilege. That's the big thing. For brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel on this case. I will explain what that means in a second. Let me move on to the rest of the statement. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, I can no longer effectively serve as his counsel in accordance with the ABA standards for criminal justice. This motion for withdrawal of counsel, if granted, will not delay the current schedule of jury selection or trial, nor will it impact the timeline for briefing pre-trial legal matters. As a result, there will be no lapse in representation. Basically, what that means in legal jargon, to simplify it, is, although I have attorney-client privileges, basically I am withdrawing from this case for reasons I cannot specify under attorney-client privilege.
Right.
And even though it is technically against the rules for me to withdraw as quickly as I can, and kind of bending the rules a little bit and not doing all the paperwork properly or not giving enough legal time, I am doing it because due to the things I know and have heard, I refuse to defend this man. He has also said that he spoke with the head legal counsel and that they agreed he should drop off. So, is kind of a big deal.
When you have that level of, I ain't touching this with a 10-foot pole.
Yep.
You know it ain't going to be good for Puff Daddy.
And when you specifically have to specify due to reasons I cannot specify under attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, like legal status of I cannot talk about this because I know so much about it, and it's like whatever the fucking thing is with doctors, how you can't doctors can't discuss it. Doctor-patient confidentiality.
Yeah, Hippocratic oath kind of thing. Same thing with counselors. Unless you threaten to kill yourself or somebody else or harm yourself or somebody else, anything you say cannot be discussed.
Yeah, and there was a guy that popped up, I want to say it was like 10 years ago, that had like all this information on Diddy and like was talking about how he was like brought into a lot of the stuff that was going on with him, and like everybody wrote him off as just being like a nutcase and like, oh, this guy is just like some crazy homeless man or something. Now here we are 10 years later and all these things are coming out as true, and this guy's sitting there like fucking a cartoon character saying, I told you so, I told you so.
It's kind of like Alex, I hate to say it, and we're going to hit this political button and bounce off. It's just like COVID. Conspiracy theorists 10, scientists 0.
Uh-huh.
Anywho,
I'm excited to see what's about to happen with this trial. This trial is going to be a fucking bombshell.
Dude, when they start releasing these tapes like they did for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial on the internet,
It's going to be the nuclear fallout of Diddy's career is going to touch so many other people in the industry to the point where...
Can you not say touch so many people in the industry?
Okay, fine. Let me rephrase it.
Phrasing.
The gears of this trial are going to be fucking so slippery
with baby
oil that this freeway is just going to be this semi running down this freeway of baby oil is just going to be hitting everybody and taking it all down.
Oh jeez, we're going to hell. So
it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of go big or go home.
We are 36 minutes in. Do you think we have enough time to rant about our topic this week?
It's okay. We can run an episode. Chris Garza put out a 2.5-hour interview with Chris Barnes. I think we're going to be okay.
Okay. So we're going to hit something that luckily we both agree on, so it won't be, I don't think it'll be too long of a rant. I do have some historical context for what we're about to talk about.
I think you fail to realize my ability to rant.
Yeah.
I was in debate.
We are talking about the newest nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which Josh and I agree are okay, but there are definitely some nominees on there that shouldn't be on there.
There are ones on here that make me angry.
Just in the same way that Beyonce's album shouldn't have but one country album of the year. If you wanted to give it album of the year, fine, but country album of the year, no. Mariah Carey should not be on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame list.
There are so many other country artists that are actually country musicians that should have won that award. The fact that Beyonce put out a fucking Cowboy Carter album and she's wearing basically glorified Dolly Parton outfits on a fucking horse and just has a clangy guitar does not constitute a country album. That is like saying, who's going to win country album of the year? Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. Are they a country band? No. Do they have country elements?
Go ahead and just YouTube the song Spaghetti.
No.
It's not a country song. It's a rap song. It's not even remotely
Beyonce. It's not going to be country. She is not a country artist.
And then the first line of one of her songs were, genres are a funny thing. Okay, so you're arrogantly out loud saying that you don't care about genres. You're just doing this because you think you should. Fuck you.
She's just doing it because she has nothing else to do.
So there are two theories. I think the first one is possible, but not as possible as the second one. The first one is obviously that she paid for the Grammy because she keeps getting snubbed by the Grammys. And I'll say this, Beyonce's Lemonade should have beaten out Adele's 25 back when Adele came out with 25. The only big song off of 25 was Hello. No one cared about the rest of the album. Beyonce's Lemonade was a better album, should have won the Grammy over Adele. So, first off,
I'll take your word for it.
There's the idea that Jay-Z and Beyonce paid for the Grammy. I can understand that. Kind of in the same way, and I won't say he paid for it, but like, you know how Leonardo DiCaprio kept getting snubbed for Oscars his entire career, and he finally won one for fucking Wolf of Wall Street?
Was it Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, he won it for Wolf of Wall Street. Yep.
What's the other movie?
Django.
What was that Frontier movie he was in?
You're thinking of The Revenant.
I thought he won it for that.
No, he won it for Wolf of Wall Street, which came out before The Revenant. But the point is, I feel like they gave it to him out of pity for that movie, whereas he should have won it for Django or any other of the million movies he's been in that he's been amazing in.
The fact that he did not win it solely for even just Titanic,
right,
is it blows my mind that somebody who has such a good acting ability, like especially between Titanic to Django, the fact that Wolf of Wall Street, where he's fucking acting out an entire scenario where he's on Quaaludes, crawling on the floor, yelling, "Don't answer the phone," and trying to get into a car.
Yeah.
Whereas Django, where he smashes the glass, he lacerates his hand, he's bleeding everywhere, but he does not break character.
Right. I think
that is just asinine to me.
Yeah, I think that part of it is pity, and I also do agree to a level that she could have paid for it with Jay-Z. Like, they paid the Grammys to finally give it to her. But again, there's a level of pity. Here's my third opinion, and then we'll get back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who was the first African-American female to have a number one song on Billboard Country Artist?
Oh, you know what?
This only happened 2-3 years ago.
I fucking know what it is, too.
Luke Combs covered her song. Tracy Chapman.
Tennessee, I should know this. Yes.
Tracy Chapman's song, Fast Car, was covered by Luke Combs. Then she became the first black female to have a number one song on the country album charts. So what does Jay-Z, Beyonce, and the music industry do? Hey, the first black female just became the first black female ever just went number one on the country charts. I'm sorry. What if we have Beyonce do a country album? She can be the first black woman to have a number one album on the country charts. And maybe win a Grammy, be the first black woman. It's all accolades and money based. But it's true. Like, whether she paid for it or not, which is totally possible, it's all about the accolades. It's all that so she could finally put that stamp in the history book and say, see, I was the first black female to have a number one country album on the country charts. Anyway, it's all disingenuous.
I'm going to start swinging at something. I'm going to start swinging.
Back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There are people on this.
Okay, let's think about this for a second too.
You have the
What
list.
is the title? What is the title of this?
Rock and Roll.
What is the name of this?
Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
So who are the nominees, Josh? You have the list?
I do. There are 14 nominees that were announced, of which are appearing on the ballot for the first time. We have, from 1978, Bad Company, which makes sense. Bad Company is understandably kind of like more of a rock pop band. But, I mean, to be fair, we have the song Bad Company by Bad Company on the album Bad Company. And I still love it. The Black Crowes.
That's fair.
Which I didn't realize the Black Crowes started in 1984.
Yeah, they're an older band.
Good God. I'm gonna go through the ones that make sense, and then we're gonna go through the ones that
are iffy,
anger me.
Yep.
Soundgarden.
Yep.
Is on the nominee, which 100% makes sense.
They're probably gonna win it too.
I hope so. White Stripes makes sense. They are very influential in the rock industry. Fish. I don't know how Fish got on there, but Fish is on there.
They're kind of like ska rock, so I can see it. Not that I agree 100%, but I can see it.
Oasis is on that list.
Yeah, pop rock.
Billy Idol.
Yes, agreed.
Billy Idol makes sense. Cyndi Lauper makes sense. We have Joy Division / New Order, since Joy Division was in 1976. New Order was in 1980. I want to say it's because the singer died and they got a new singer and they just rebranded it.
Yep.
Excuse me. Chubby Checker from 1958. Definitely one of those ones that influenced rock going into 60s and 70s.
Unfortunately, I don't know that band, so I'm going to rely on you.
Chubby Checker is a singer and guitar player. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Let's see. Who else do we have? Let's start moving into the ones that I don't think make sense. Outkast.
No.
Is in the nominee.
He's a hip-hop artist.
One band called Mana. I'm not too familiar with Mana, so they get a pass for me just because I'm not going to talk on someone that I don't know.
Exactly.
Let me backtrack this. Joe Cocker's on this list too, which Joe Cocker does make sense.
Right.
So yeah, Outkast, Oasis, which we talked about this. I can agree with what you say about Oasis. Kind of getting on that nominee list.
Let's talk about the alt-rock, pop-rock category.
Yeah, so they're going to sell records no matter what. Somebody's going to buy their records. The last one. Frasier, do you want to say who the last one is? The last nominee on the let me restart this. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It's Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey is a nominee on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2025.
No. And here's the thing. I posted about it, and I posted for the same reasons I was mad that Beyonce won her Grammy. I'm mad that she and Outkast are allowed on this list because everyone knows that they're not rock and roll. They've never been rock and roll. They've never tried to be rock and roll. They've never claimed to be rock and roll. They don't even want to be rock and roll. Mariah Carey has never wanted to be considered part of the rock group. She doesn't hang out with anybody from the rock area. She doesn't touch the rock thing. She is in the popular kids crew 100% of the way.
You know who would have made more sense in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame setting?
Anybody?
If it was a choice between the two of them. So, honestly, kind of. Even Shakira would have been a better nominee for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yep.
At least she has guitar in her music.
And
Eminem has guitar in his music, not in all of his music, but a lot of his music. Hell, even unfortunately, I would say Machine Gun Kelly would almost be a better nominee than Mariah Carey.
Actually, he would, because he at least tried to drop 2 punk rock albums.
2 pop rock albums.
So I'm going to look this up really quick because some guy tried to use this as actual, how do I put this? He actually tried to use this as evidence that I was wrong. So I went off and I basically said the same thing about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I said about Beyonce. And I said it's disingenuous to actual people in rock. It leaves out spots for people that are actually in rock. People that have devoted their lives to rock and metal music are completely being let out and stepped over because they're letting in these pop acts that don't, like I said, like Mariah Carey has never wanted to be rock and roll. She's never attempted to be rock and roll. She has nothing to do with rock and roll. And one of these people on Facebook decided to get all smart mouthed and say, well, read the mission statement. And I said, and the reason the original Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was originally created was to honor rock and roll because the Grammys snubbed the rock and metal categories every year. For those of you that don't know, the rock and metal categories aren't even shown on TV ever. Not a single year have they ever been shown. And most of the years during the in memoriam, Memoriam, thank you. During that section, they don't even show some of the rock artists on TV because they literally ignore us. So this is why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was originally created. And someone tried to argue with me and said, read the mission statement. I will read the mission statement. Born from the collision of rhythm and blues, country and gospel, rock and roll is a spirit that is inclusive and ever-changing. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame celebrates the sound of youth culture and honors the artists whose music connects us all. One small problem with that. That was completely revised and redone 2 years ago. Actually, a year and a half. It actually is 2 years ago now. In 2023. So whoever took over the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame basically revamped the purpose of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to include everybody and everything because they wanted to and for no other reason. Also probably because, hey, we needed to make money.
And that just literally remakes this as the Grammys with a different title.
Yeah, that's all it does. All you do is that it's the Grammys with a rock and roll focus. But the whole point of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was to bring in rock acts only because of the fact that we were getting snubbed from the beginning. Now, for the record, back in 1968, they actually thought about and had an argument about, and I think it was in 68, I could be wrong on that year, but I know it was the late 60s. They actually started debating bringing in doo-wop acts. Do you know why?
No, tell me.
Because they weren't selling enough tickets. It wasn't even that they weren't selling enough tickets. They were worried that they wouldn't sell enough tickets for the dinner and the party at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The only reason they have ever considered bringing in other acts than rock and metal is for money and popularity purposes only, which is, again, completely disingenuous and bullshit to what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame originally was started for.
There's actually a really interesting one here that I remember reading about when it first came out, and I totally forgot about it until this came up. Dolly Parton was actually announced as a nominee in 2022.
Right.
But she requested to be removed from the ballot.
Because she knows she's not rock and roll and has never tried to be.
She wrote, even though I'm extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I have earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out.
Yep.
But the Hall replied days later that she would remain on the ballot in part because the ballots for 2022 class had already been sent to voters.
Yep.
But she did say that, your mission statement right here is one that she quoted. From its inception, rock and roll has deep roots in rhythm and blues and country music. It is not defined by any one genre, rather a sound that moves youth culture. Dolly Parton's music impacted a generation of young fans and influenced countless artists that followed. She said that she would accept it later in the year. She would accept it if it happened, but she definitely tried to be removed from it.
Yep.
Which, dude, Dolly Parton's too good for this world.
Yep. So, I mean, it's the disingenuous nature of it, and it's obvious that it's either to get views or money, and that's it. Because if you accept Mariah Carey, then all of a sudden people are going to go, oh, what's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
What's actually interesting is the Michael Nesmith, past member of the Monkees, stated that he didn't know if the Monkees belonged in the Hall of Fame because he could see the impact of the Monkees only from the inside, and went on to say, I can see that the Hall of Fame is a private enterprise. It seems to operate as a business, and the inductees are there by some action of the owners of the enterprise.
Right.
The inductees appear to be chosen at the owner's pleasure. This seems proper to me. It is their business in any case. It does not seem to me that the Hall of Fame carries a public mandate, or nor should it be compelled to conform to one.
Right.
So, I've never really dived too deep into this, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I think I might dive deeper into it now. But I'm mad that Mariah Carey's on there, and I'm not mad because it's Mariah Carey. I'm mad because anyone could have been thrown in that position and said, hey, by the way, we want to put who do you think should be out there with these people's names on there? And there's been bands that have been back and forth with that I've seen on here that I don't know if I consider them like a rock and roll band. Like Bowie's on this list, and Bowie has good rock music, but I don't know if I'd really consider him a rock musician.
I would consider him rock. I'm fine with that.
I consider him more pop.
Right. I mean, here's the other thing, though. And again, here's the overarching thing. Whether or not you believe it's genuine or disingenuous, there are people that deserve to be on that list more than Outkast and Mariah Carey that are actually rock.
Yeah.
And there are people that know that.
You're bringing in two acts that are arguably more famous than some of the other artists on this list.
And this is where I do agree with Eminem on something. He was talking about the Grammys and why he'd never go back. And I'm using this as an example. He's like, 50 Cent came out and was selling millions and millions and millions of records. And the person that won that year was some lady that like the critics all loved. And she only sold like, his exact quote was like, she only sold like 200 copies. But there are much bigger, better rock acts that have been around longer and deserve to be on that list and in that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than anybody else. And until you get through all of them, then we can start talking about pop acts. But as of right now, you have no reason to be snubbing so many other good rock acts that have sold millions of records, sell out arenas all day, every day, and are in the criterion for that award. That is what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is for. Not for you to besmirch it by bringing in pop acts and country acts and whatever. Unless it's like country acts that have specifically and on purpose crossed the rock threshold. I can think of Brantley Gilbert just for going on tour with Nickelback and being more rock. Or Rascal Flatts really brought rock to country. Like that kind of idea.
Right.
Or like the Lakeviews that intentionally flirt that line between metal and country. Okay, then we can talk about it. But you still have to induct so many people that keep getting snubbed every year for no reason.
Yeah, it's like everything else. It's a popularity contest.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you throw you throw Mariah Carey versus Soundgarden, I'm sure that a lot more people are going to be more familiar with Mariah Carey than Soundgarden, just mostly because Mariah Carey has the one Christmas song that everybody knows.
Do you know how much the songwriter for that song makes per year off that one song?
Probably more money than any of us will ever make.
$22 million a year on average.
God damn.
He wrote one tune, sold it to Mariah Carey for royalty percentages, and made $22 million per year on that one song.
I mean, smart man, never has to work a day in his life.
Right?
I'd do that. I'd write a fucking Christmas song.
Art is one of the only mediums that you can do one song or one album or one book, one TV show, and never have to work again a day in your life.
Or you have to work every single day for your entire life and still not have enough money to do anything. It's just whatever clicks with people.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Warhol painted a Campbell soup can.
Yep.
All right. Now that we're done ranting, let's rant about our albums.
I'm going to let you hold on to the albums a little bit longer, and I'll just kind of jump in here and there because my voice is getting shot.
We have 2 albums to talk about today. One, I have to double back on something I said on the last episode, or the episode before that. I forget which one. And one that I've been sitting waiting for a while. And I'll let you figure out which one I'm talking about. So, Killsswitch Engage released their new album, This Consequence, just this last Friday. Yesterday, for people that are living in our present time. Killsswitch Engage has been around for 25 years, and that still blows my mind how old I am.
Also makes them eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, God. They'll get it for Holy Diver.
Mm-hmm.
So, Killsswitch Engage released their long-awaited album. The last time we talked about Killsswitch Engage, I talked about that the album before this one was Incarnate. I was wrong. I admit that. Now I need you telling me. The last album before that was Atonement. That is the one that came out during COVID. They couldn't tour on it and kind of just threw that album under the rug, besides the fact they had The Signal Fire with Howard Jones, a past vocalist of Killsswitch Engage, arguably the best song on the album. Fast forward to 2025, we have their new album, This Consequence, that just came out. And it is good. It's definitely not, in my opinion, the best they've ever put out.
What he means by good is it's just good.
It's a good album. I've listened to it twice all the way through, and I can't find anything I genuinely don't like about it. But it's not it. I don't know what's going on with Killswitch. I feel like their production has kind of scaled back. I mean, you go back to As Daylight Dies, that album is a hard album to follow up on anything. But just the production was just so big and so epic that, I mean, you feel like you get hit in the face by a fucking hurricane when those guitars kick on As Daylight Dies. You feel like you're getting sucked into the fucking whirlwinds, and it doesn't let you out until the end of the album.
Right.
When Jesse Leach came back for Disarm the Descent, that album was lean, it was hard, and it was heavier than stuff that they had put out in years. Fast forward to This Consequence, it still has a lot of the same music styles that Killswitch has been doing since Jesse's come back. I feel like the guitar work on this album it's not that it's not up to par in technicality. It's just, it doesn't feel like the guitar playing in this band has always felt like almost another member of the band. You know, you're going to get some really good riffs. You're going to have some really good solos. This album, I just feel like just didn't really bring it in terms of guitar work.
I feel like this,
But-
I'll say this just for I agree. I think the production was okay. I just think this album sounded really samey after you listen to like 5 tracks. And
Yeah.
I wish it had, I think we talked about this, I wish it had the production that All That Remains had with this style of songwriting.
Right. Like the singles that have come out, I feel like are probably the best songs on here. Forever Aligned and I Believe. They definitely toy with some different ideas on this album that it's one of those things where it's like they put a little bit of new stuff into this album, but it's not explored enough to the point where it's a good album. Killsswitch Engage, I don't feel like has ever put out a bad album. They put out weak albums, but I mean, I'm a Jesse Leach fanboy. I think he's, he is Killsswitch Engage in a lot of ways, besides Adam at least. But I don't really feel like this album kind of had a lot of different stuff going for it. Like Jesse Leach has definitely said that he's more of a punk influence, and I feel like this album kind of shows it more prominently that there's more of a punk influence on it. Mm-hmm. For Jesse to be talking about how like aggressive this album was going to be and how angry he was when he wrote it, it doesn't really come through.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just because of the production on this album or what. I'm not sure. There was also a bit of a backlash when this album was about to be released because Mike D'Antonio, their bass player, has been making all the album covers and also has his own. I believe I even said this on the last episode.
You did 2 episodes ago. You talked about it for quite a bit.
Yes, Adam. I believe I said it was Adam that did the album covers. I was wrong. Adam does production.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You said it was Adam Dukowitz. I was like, no, it's the bass player, but I'll let it roll.
No, so their bass player Mike does album covers, and he does album covers for a lot of different bands. He had to defend himself here within the last 2 weeks, talking about how it looks like it's AI generated. He had to go back on there and stupidly had to defend himself with saying that it's not AI. I make all of these album covers, and I'm not sure why it's been a fight with him, but I don't understand it. As an artist and as a musician, I can understand how that's frustrating. And especially right before this new album drops, talking about trying to fight him, saying that it's an AI generated album cover. I don't know. I don't care. But I think it's not their best. It's not their best album, especially with Jesse on vocals. It's good to go listen. If you're a Killsswitch Engage fan, you're going to like it. That's just it. You're going to like it. It has everything that Jesse's fronted version of Killsswitch Engage has. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's just everything that Jesse's done with the band. It's just, we're on a steady road for albums coming out. But I don't know. Like I said, it's good. Is it going to be my favorite album of the year? No, unfortunately not. But it's good for a couple spins.
Yeah.
Did you like this album?
I thought it was I know you're going to be mad, but it was like a 5 or 6 out of 10 just because they all sounded the same. Like, I listened to the other album.
I'm not going to be mad about that because I can completely agree with you.
I listened to the other album you sent me, and I actually got more invested in that than I did this album, which really disappointed me.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, this is their 9th album. It's kind of hard sometimes to really try to bring a new energy into it without alienating any hardcore fans.
Right.
But it's a tribute to old 2000s metalcore. That's what this album feels like.
Right.
So I agree with you. I do believe it's generally about a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to say that, but I feel like I have to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel bad about saying it. I don't feel bad about saying it at all. But this other album that we're going to talk about, this other album grabs you by the fucking nuts and throws you over the fucking fence into the bullpen. Mm-hmm. So our other album we're going to be talking about is Bleeding Through's new album, also their 9th album, called 9.
Right.
If I haven't talked about this before, I can talk about it just briefly. Bleeding Through is probably one of my favorite metalcore acts. I didn't know who Bleeding Through was until I saw them open for Bullet for My Valentine on the Scream Aim Fire tour. Mm-hmm. And didn't know who they were. It was Cancer Bats, Bleeding Through, Bullet for My Valentine. Cancer Bats was okay. Obviously, Cancer Bats vocalist went on to do Axe Wound with the singer of Bullet for My Valentine, which is arguably a better band than either of those bands, honestly. But Bleeding Through was one that they caught my attention just because of how energetic the live show was. It was nasty metalcore music.
Right.
And I remember walking away saying, damn, Bullet for My Valentine really killed it. But that other band, Bleeding Through, like, I need to look into them. And I went and bought their album, This Is Love, This Is Murderous, from 2005 or 3, I believe, 2003. And it's their albums are more metalcore. It's got kind of like gothic sound with their keyboards, and they never really make the same album twice. Like, every album is generally different in a good way.
The way I describe this, I'm going to give my quick review because I'm jumping off of what you just said. The way I describe this is I said, you can definitely tell that because Chris Motionless has said many times that Bleeding Through is one of his favorite bands. You can definitely tell the heavy side of Motionless in White comes from Bleeding Through. And the song, like the first song on 9, this album, sounds very, very, very close, unintentionally, I think, to Puppets 3 off of the Reincarnate album with Danny Filth. When I heard that song, I was like, this sounds a lot like Puppets. And again, I don't think that's intentional in terms of...
I think it's more Puppets sounds a lot like this.
I think Puppets came out first, but it's definitely reminiscent of Bleeding Through on purpose. And then just so happens that Bleeding Through made a song that was like, oh yeah, look, there it is.
Well, and their vocalist, Brandon, he's friends with everybody. Mm-hmm. He runs his own gym called Rise Above Fitness.
Yep.
And he recently, I believe, has been doing YouTube uploads of bringing in other artists, doing like a workout with him and kind of almost interviewing him in the process. I believe he just had one with M Shadows.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot to mention, on par with that, actually a guy I ran into at my gym has an awesome tank top that I asked him where he got it from. He's like, oh, it's the guy Brandon from Bleeding Through. It's his gym brand.
Yeah, I have a couple of Rise Above Fitnesses shirts and tank tops. Actually, I have a matching one with my oldest daughter.
Right.
And I have a hat from them too. Like, Brandon is honestly like one of the coolest guys in metalcore. Like, super down to earth guy, just wants to make heavy music and lift heavy weights.
And he's also super nice and like wants everybody to be like, not that like in a judgmental way, but like wants everybody to be happy and clean and sober and stuff.
And better versions of themselves. Like, people, they're Marta, the keyboard player Bleeding Through. I know she also is really big on his like fitness stuff, and a lot of members of Bleeding Through, I believe, are also a part of Rise Above. Mm-hmm. And that camaraderie really shows on this album, because this album it's fucking tight. Mm-hmm. It is nasty when it needs to be. And this, unfortunately, is the level of heavy that I wanted Killswitch to do.
See, I wanted this. I didn't want Killswitch to go this heavy. I wanted All That Remains to go this heavy, and then Killswitch do what Killswitch do, but not make it all the same song, dude. I feel like Killswitch is known more for their melodic stuff, whereas All That Remains is known more for their heavier stuff.
Yeah, and Bleeding Through definitely... They put the metal back in metalcore on this album. Like, this album is dark, it's heavy, and appropriately just calling it 9, I feel like is even just better. Like, this album is it's the 9th album in Bleeding Through's lineup of albums. You know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. But there's I will admit there is weaker songs in this album. Let's see, what is it? Their second song on this album, Wikipedia doesn't actually have a title or a track list for this album, but they've come out with a couple of singles. I believe it's the song Our Brand is Chaos. Mm-hmm. Feels very repetitive. Mm-hmm. I believe the majority of the lyrics is fuck around and find out, or fuck with us and find out. But besides that song, I think Dead But So Alive is probably a weaker song on this album. The singles they put out, I feel like, didn't do the album justice. And like I've said before, I believe when you put out singles for an album, it's like the trailer to the movie. You're going to give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, without fully showing what it's going to be. I feel like they kind of put out weaker tracks. Path of Our Disease was the third single, which I feel like is a better track to represent this album, especially with having Marta sing on parts of this song. And this is actually the first album that has guest appearances since their album Declaration. And Declaration came out in 2008. And this is the first album that has actually had guest vocalists come on there, because Andrew Newfield of Comeback Kid was on the song I Am Resistance. Oh man, who else was on this album? I'm sorry, it doesn't list anything on here really for an album or a track list for it. I gotta bring it up somewhere else. But when this album came out, unfortunately, right before this album came out, their bass player announced that he was permanently leaving the band, citing multiple back injuries, which led him to drop off the touring lineup the previous September. So I'm not sure who's going to be playing bass for them now. I'll do it. I'll be a bass player. I'll slap at the bass for you. I actually have a lot of more past members than I imagined. This album, I can't say anything really too bad about this album besides that there's some weaker songs on here than I would really like. Their album that came before this, Love Will Kill All, I feel like was a good comeback album because they had broken up in 2014 or 2010 to 2014 when The Great Fire came out. Great Fire was more of a mediocre album. It was more of a punk album than I really wanted from them. And then Love Will Kill All came out through Sharp Tone Records, and that album I feel like was a good way to come back and say, hey, here's this previous metalcore band really kind of showing their chops.
Right.
They have their Rage EP that came out after that, and the 20th anniversary of This Is Love, This Is Murderous. And then 9 comes out. 9 comes out and fucking kicks you in the nuts and then picks you back up and throws you back in the fucking pit.
Right.
So, honestly, I'd say I don't like to say I hate to say it, but this album gets 8 or 9 out of 10 for me over Killswitch.
I'm giving it over Killswitch. I'm giving it a 7 or an 8, and that's just because it's not like there's a little. I love the melodic in it, but I need to spend more time with it. So for right now, I know I can give it a definite 7 of 8 with chances to improve later.
Yeah, like honestly, if you go back and listen to This Is Love or Declaration, The Truth is probably one of their biggest albums. It's not my favorite, but I mean, this band is on their 9th album. Their first album came out in 1999. And here we are in 2025, and they can still put out an album that, is going to hurt somebody in the pit. Mm-hmm. So,
alrighty,
that's my spiel.
Alrighty,
I've ranted long enough.
So with that, we are Dissonant Harmonics Podcast. We will catch you later.
We'll try not to skip a week. It may happen again. I'm not apologizing.
Depending on how my voice sounds. All right, catch you later, everybody.
Yes. Have a great week, everybody.